If there's one thing that's true of every hunter, is that we have a favorite weapon. And that weapon might not be the best weapon, though in my case, my favorite weapon is also the best weapon. Oh, look at it. Sorry, and that best weapon might change from time to time as the weapons change. Generation to generation, game to game, and Sunbreak, it's fair to say, has done a lot to basically every single weapon. And in that doing a lotness, we have new favorites. So today, I want to go over my personal 5 favorite weapons in Sunbreak, and also your 5 favorite weapons in Sunbreak, because yes, I asked you that question. Don't remember? It was while you were sleeping. And no, don't worry about how you answered if that was the case. Anyway, sometimes I almost think I should script things, but then I remember, nah. Alrighty then, I at 5th place then. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am going to say this. It's Snis, Sword and Shield.
And now for something completely different.
If I could just take a moment to slowly pan up something very sweet. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a beast of a computer that, well, let me just put it this way, is certainly worth dying for. Yes, indeed, thank you very much once again to MSI for sponsoring this video, and this time around we are looking at the Mag Codex 5, one of their pre-built machines, and machine is truly the right word because goddamn is this a machine! Hello. The amount of power you get for your pennies here is truly commendable, and indeed it comes with that sweet, lovely, soft glow of that hardware doing what it does best, and some of that best is playing Sunbreak with an absolute aplomb. You've got an 11th gen Intel processor in here, you've got a GeForce RTX card, and you have all of the bells and whistles that you would want to come with that, as well as a customizable side panel. You can either have tempered glass, or you can go for a more opaque look. Basically, if you're wanting a computer upgrade and you don't want to go crazy, but you want to go a little bit crazy, you could do a lot worse than this. There is a special link down below if you are indeed interested, but for now, I will leave you to enjoy the rest of the show. And a large part of that is simply due to Shield Bash, because I find it so immensely satisfying as a tool. Anything that gives you burst movement, reposition, combined with damage and KO that you can build around, weave into skills like Offensive Guard. I mean, it's one hell of a complete package and a perfect addition to Sword and Shield's kit. It feels very Sword and Shieldy, you know, and that is really perfect. But that said, the weapon itself just feels really strong now. You get to do a lot of damage, you get to use both raw and elements, you can also of course whack up the status, which has always been a thing with Sword and Shield, but even just the new combo is a direct upgrade, and it gives a lot of flavor back to the weapon, even just being able to spin around mid-combo, which is something that's nice to have back. And generally speaking, it just has turned into a very satisfying weapon that has this perfect mix of speed and damage, and I for one have been having a lot of fun giving it a bit of a go in Sunbreak. Next up then is a weapon that admittedly I play a lot less than other weapons in Sunbreak, and therefore you might think it's strange that it's coming in here as 4th. You're seeing that it's Chargeblade, and historically Chargeblade has always been my least favorite weapon, my least played weapon, the weapon I know the least about, the one I am least good on, and generally I've just not kinda cared for it and its general playstyle. However, If there is one thing I love more than anything, it is set building. It is crafting the perfect combination of armor, decoration, skills to do something truly awesome, from, well, being immortal to damage to playing in a unique way that no one's thought of before. And that is not what I'm about to say, has happened with Chargeblade. Everybody knows that element files in Sunbreak on Chargeblade are so good. But that is exactly why it's here. Because uniquely, unlike any other weapon, all you care about on an element Chargeblade build is pure element amount. We don't care about raw, we don't care about affinity, we don't need to make a balanced build. Hell, even Chargeblade on the element build still has plenty of raw and affinity skills because, hey, they still want critical element, even if they don't care about the raw side of things. Whereas Chargeblade has none of that, and that lets you use skills like Storm Soul for percent element increases, and that really scratches an itch for me. And any weapon where you can take one single aspect, push it to the absolute maximum, and then just spam that attacker playstyle to great results really kinda does something for me. Like back in World and Iceborne, when we first popularized Dragon Piercing on the bow, using only Dragon Piercer with a dedicated maximum Dragon Piercer set. That's not how the bow is supposed to be played, but damn was it fun and powerful. Whereas now with Chargeblade, element file SAAD spamming is actually the best way to do it, but in doing that you end up with a really fun set and playstyle, and it just kinda does it for me. So no, you won't see me playing this often. No, you won't see this appearing on my general Monster Hunter in general favorite weapons, but right now, specifically, I respect the hell out of pure element SAAD spamming, and for once, I will give Chargeblade the nod.
It's also entirely possible that Chargeblade has always been this engaging, and I've just now for the first time given it proper attention in Sunbreak, so I'm like, wow! As with every weapon, when you properly investigate it, it's really good in Monster Hunter.
Face my fury!
Next up, then, I have to go with Switch Axe. Switch Axe has always been in my top 5 favorite weapons, usually around thirds. Basically, it's kind of gone Great Sword, Bow, then Switch Axe, and Switch Axe is, in my opinion, the best it has ever been in Sunbreak, purely because of that sweet, delicious counter. It feels good to have a counter on Switch Axe, which historically has been kind of a big foot-planted weapon, pretty much like Great Sword, and having a rank of Evade Extender has always been very nice on it, and generally just getting to sit there, counter, and explode with damage is something that speaks deeply to me, and as you'll see, you guys as well. It's what makes Strong Arms so good, it's what made Tackles so good, it's what makes Longsword so good. There is something instinctively just compelling about hit me and pay the price, monster. An Elemental Burst counter combines with the rest of a wonderful Switch Axe kit to really get the job done. You see lots of numbers, lots of high numbers, which is always good. You can go raw, you can go element, though element is a little bit better, but that's fun in its own right. It feels great to do the diving aerial stab. Obviously, SSDing is always good, attaching to the monster, blowing it the hell up. I mean, look, counters are great. Counters that result in explosive element bursts of death, let's be honest, are even better. And I think it is hard to argue that Switch Axe, well, it is in one hell of a good place right now, both power and fun-wise. Is it gonna take my first place?
No, it's a Switch Axe!
But it has taken a place in my heart. Following that, then, we move to the Jewel Blades. Jewel Blades, Jewel Blades. I've always loved Jewel Blades, always considered them in my top 5, and this time around, it's not too different. Spiral Slash is an absolute treat. Not only does it look visually incredible, but it feels fantastic to deploy, and I just feel like Jewel Blades are kind of low-key really powerful, and they've just not had their turn in the spotlight yet, while everybody always, focusing on the more flashy, impactful weapons like Strong Arm Greatsword. But on top of the new actual Sunbreak attacks Chargeblades have got, a new way to manage sharpness is very, very cool. The dodge attack is also very, very cool, and as I said, Spiral Slash is ridiculously powerful, but the behind-the-scenes buffs and tweaks to the actual numbers going on is what really makes this weapon pop even more now. Getting just a flat 30% or so buff to your element while in demon mode is real tasty. Affects status too, which opens up a whole other world of builds that, yes, granted, obviously Dual Blades always cared about elemental status, but pushing it even harder, especially in a world where we have new skills that care about status, is really nice to see. And generally speaking, I don't think it's ever been a better time to use the death by 1,000 cuts personified that is Dual Blades. So, as we head towards number 1, you obviously know what it's going to be. It's Greatsword. And look, I might be biased. And yes, I'm incredibly biased. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to argue that Greatsword, which is firmly as it currently stands the most potent and best melee weapon in terms of damage output thanks to Strong Arm Counter's ridiculous numbers that it hits for, that there isn't something special going on here. Giving a weapon like this a way to ignore a monster attack was already amazing with Tackle, but now we can do it even more efficiently, and the reward for it is not just an near instant version of our most damaging attack in True Charge, but one that is buffed by 35%? Like, what? It honestly feels kind of like, oh, we're gonna get nerfed. We're gonna get nerfed. Surely we're gonna get nerfed. It's ridiculous how purely impactful Greatsword has become. You've actually got some speed to the weapon without actually making the weapon faster. It's just an even better way of holding your ground and making the monster pay for it. But it plays into the whole fantasy of Greatsword in that it still requires intimate knowledge of the monster's attacks to pull off correctly. And when it is pulled off correctly, it looks like a glorious dance, a ballet of destruction, as you counter hit, counter hit, counter hit. And yes, it might sound like I'm describing Longsword, but no, it's not Longsword, it's Greatsword, the better sword. And you still take damage when you strong arm counter something, which means that it's still very Greatsword and unga-bungery. And look, okay, definitely a lot of the reasons that strong arm is so satisfying is a reason that counters in general are so satisfying, and obviously Longsword is the premium counter weapon, but as I said with Switch Axe, you add a proper counter that lets you follow up with monstrous damage to something, and it gets better. It just does. In the high-paced hunting world of Rise and Sunbreak, it fits, it works, but even then, if we take away Strong Arm, Surge Slash is so much fun. And we don't talk about Backslide, but Surge Slash is so much fun. That actually gets you a higher paced combo way to play with lots of movement and options, and that's a whole other dimension to Greatsword that is still incredibly good. It's just currently a little bit overshadowed by Strong Arm, but it's an awesome little way to play the weapon and a great take on it that still feels very Greatswordy because it's quite literally a play on the original combo that Greatsword had before it could ever charge to begin with back in Monster Hunter 1, and I think that is very sweet. Look, at this point I don't need to wax lyrical about my love of this weapon, and it has just got immensely better. I think being pigeonholed into the strong arm counterplay style might end up backfiring, you know, like a year from now, but it probably won't continue into Monster Hunter 6, and just having one game like this where Greatsword functions in this way is a massive tick in my book, and I think it's hard not to argue that Greatsword has probably gained the most from the Sunbreak changes out of anything. But then again, I might still be unbelievably biased. So, that's my 5, but I said I'd show you yours as well, and indeed I will. Here you go. I asked you what your current main weapon is, and indeed we got Great Sword, Switch Axe, Dual Blade, Charge Blade, but then Longsword as our top 5, which I think is fair enough. Sword and Shield just didn't make it. Kinda feel bad for the lances and bowguns, but that's also not hugely unexpected. A very interesting spread, and it's very cool to see which weapons you guys favor and why. I'd love to know if you're surprised by this data, these results, but it is kind of cool how much it's aligned with my thoughts as well, and I think it's for very good reason that these weapons up at the top are just really fun at the moment, but I don't think the others aren't. I think they just need exploring more as time goes on, the end game develops, and title updates roll on. In any case, let me know what you think. Like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe, and hit the bell for more Sunbreakly goodness. Consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.